There is normally an overall time limit for public questioning of 30 minutes, including the time taken by responses to questions, but this can be extended at my discretion. Would Mr. Carpen please come forward and answer this question?
You've got a floating microphone. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Quick show of hands, how many of you got to read the blog post that was attached to this public question when it was circulated? 1, 2, 3, 4. Splendid, which is more than last time. This question relates to a conversation I've had with a couple of councillors with the idea of having a long-term mayor's civic fund. Now, the idea behind this actually came from the very distinguished former mayor who, when we heard the speaker earlier talking about taking in the awe of this place, got this place built. We are here in this chamber because Florence Ada Kane's got this place built. And I think she was the last woman mayor to sit in that chair over there. Now, in those days, local authorities seem to be building lots of buildings all over the place, but in this day and age, we don't see that happening. And in the conversations I've had with some of you about upgrading this place, in particular the sound system, it seems that money is very, very hard to find. So one of the things, the substance of the question really is would the council and would the mayor be interested in setting up a long-term civic fund so that, and I'm taking former Mayor Pipps's point, enabling the town and the city to raise at least a fraction of the sorts of money that otherwise goes to Cambridge University and its colleges, because what that would enable is we've got one central place where all of the money comes in and successive mayors and council leaders can pull the strings off businesses to say, look, you're making a lot of money out of Cambridge, can you give something back to the city? I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carpen, and also for 3 other questions which we'll answer in writing. In terms of what is the substance of your question, the mayors of in each year, as you know, organise their own charitable priorities. The last mayor, Councillor Pippus, raised a significant sum of money, and the current mayor, who I did discuss this with, but isn't really the right person to answer your question, has identified the Alzheimer's Society and the Red Hen Project as his 2 charities. I think the way I think that we can make some progress on the principle here, particularly given that there are already other routes that we want people to contribute through, which includes the Cambridge Community Foundation, is that we can, I think, assist the mayors, including the current mayor, by just modernising the way that we operate, the ways that we sponsor the mayoral charities. So I think in the time that we've had such annual charities, we've moved our other payment systems and the way that we operate from basically an era of checks and assistance via events. And I think there are ways that we can take the spirit of what you suggested and discuss with the mayor and officers, can we look at how funding is given? I don't think we should try and get in the way of people making donations to the 2 mayoral charities, but just take the work of the Red Hen Project and of the Alzheimer's Society. I do think there are ways that as a council we can help them raise more money in the year that the mayor sponsors them. And one of those is simply, as with some of the work that we've been doing on street aid, is that we can actually make it easier for people to make a contribution. So I think there are ways that we can do that, but I don't think it's the view of the council that we should become, if you like, the sponsor of a major charity, because we, through our own work, raise money through council tax and the council's finances. And we, for instance, as you know, we contribute £900,000 a year to voluntary organisations, all of whom are doing amazing things in this city. And there are many other charities that operate. But I do think that we can look at how we can promote and manage any contributions people want to make. And we take the point that there are people that perhaps than they need in this city, as there are in other parts of this country, and we would like them to be more generous with it, in the spirit that they might have been in 100 years ago, when people were making an awful lot of money out on the backs of the poor, but they did in the process often become philanthropists. So there are ways that we can implement this, but I don't think we will set up a new fund. What I do think that we can do is to work to help the mayoral fundraising each year.
Thank you very much, Councillor Herbert, for your reply. Certainly the substance of my appeal for something like a long-term civic fund really comes from an idea that Florence Ada Keynes had and she implemented. At the height of the Depression when she was mayor, she founded an unemployment fund, which actually put about 100 unemployed men back to work. But obviously it's a system that couldn't work today. Today, really, the scale that I'm looking at is on the scale of larger capital projects, rather than the sorts of things where members of the public might actually say, well, isn't that something that the council should be funding anyway, and not having to, hand out a begging bowl to appeal for extra donations. And there's also the complication, obviously, of the council having a very limited budget and very limited powers. But really my thinking behind this is we've got a lot of development and a lot of homes that are now being built, but we're not getting the civic infrastructure that we need to actually make those communities work. And historically, when I look at the developments of Cambridge over the past 100 years, the amount of parkland and the number of community venues that seem to be built gets fewer and smaller with each new estate that's built, and that worries me. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
I think we whenever people in this city have got a cause or a charity, we will be there to help them raise the funds. But I don't think that we should be trying to seek individual contributions to particular infrastructure projects, albeit that there may be occasions where organisations will be contacted. There is a whole wealth of community organisations out in the city, and charities operating nationally who have strong roots. And I just don't think that it's our business, Mr. Carpen, to dissuade people. I think that, or try and suggest that we can better use the funds on such projects. Clearly in the Depression, and when there was real conflict or issues, where there's a national issue or there's an international campaign, we will try and help as far as we can to raise the funds and help persuade the community to support that. But at this stage, I think we will focus on the mayoral fund, as well as helping the hundreds of voluntary organisations who rightly try and persuade some of the more affluent people, including entrepreneurs who've made a lot of money in this city. There are a lot of rich people, we would like them to give, but not by the council. There are plenty of deserving causes that they can